Hello, and welcome to the presentation covering conflict management in the workplace by Mary, Destiny, and Duran. Throughout this presentation, Mary, Destiny, and I will define conflict, describe some causes of conflict, and let you know how to deal with it. Before we go much further, we need to define conflict. Strategic communication in business and the professions defines conflict as a difference of opinion between two or more parties. Now keep in mind that a party can be made up of one or more people. A party does not have to be a whole group. Conflicts can occur between a boss and their subordinate, two equal coworkers, across different departments, or between different organizations. The important thing to remember is that conflict can come up any time a person or a group of people depend on accomplishments of others to perform their own task. Many people want to avoid conflict, but the University of Oklahoma points out that used correctly, conflict can be beneficial. This is because multiple points of view are brought to light. Therefore, conflict can help you grow professionally and personally.
Now let's discuss competing goals. Let's discuss the causes of conflict. The primary reason for conflict is competing goals. And while you may enter a conflict with established goals, those goals can change as new situations develop and as you understand your opponent more. When talking about goals, there are two kinds: content goals and relational goals. Content goals are those that are obvious or at least easily definable. Here's an example. Within a group, you may find yourself being left out of the decision making process. You may believe your partner is taking over the project. However, your partner may believe this is the case because you don't show much interest. These are two competing content goals. The second type of goal is relational goals. These goals are less obvious and revolve around the relationship between the parties at conflict. Think back on the example I just discussed. While you were told that each person involved had competing content goals, in order to understand the situation, it would help to know that each person has different work styles and that those work styles in relation to each other do not work well. Now that we know the goals involved in conflict, let's see how we manage them. Managing conflicting goals. In order to manage conflicting goals, they must be clarified so all parties can understand the positions each of them have. The only way parties involved in a conflict can share the perspective of their adversaries is by understanding their goals. Parties should state their goals clearly, discuss each other's differences, making sure that there is a shared understanding, and make each other aware that upholding goals will not impede productivity. The next step in managing conflicting goals is to establish what your collaborative goals are. This is key to working toward an independent solution. The last step is collaboration. This starts with a clarification of each party's goals. An important part of this is each party's rejection of selfish or incompatible goals. Parties can accomplish this by searching for commonalities. Recognizing each of your opponent's goals you can live with long term. Offer some concessions and develop new goals incorporating and complementing the competing goals of all parties. Let's move to conflict styles and tactics. This session, this section revolves around how we, as employees, managers, or group leaders within an organization, balance relationships and content goals during conflicts. When we're talking about content goals, this is referring to what task or goal you need to accomplish. So, if you have a deadline to accomplish something, then that task you need to complete is your content goal. Relational goals are a little different. When we're talking about this, we are referring to the relations at play within a conflict. This includes the relationship of group members if you are in a group. The relationship you have with the person you conflict with, or relationships that may be affected due to this conflict. An example of that would be if your supervisor tasks you with working with someone you don't like. Well, if you are in conflict with that person, not only will your relationship with them be affected, but any conflict would potentially affect your relationship with your supervisor. You have to ask yourself, will this affect your pay, your job status, things like that? So let's get back to balance. How do we balance content goals and relational goals within conflicts? Let's discuss the five strategies and tactics used in conflict situations. First up is the accommodating style. This is when you are more willing to give in to the needs of the other person. This style shows more of an eagerness to please or an unwillingness to create tension. The avoiding style. This style is when you aren't concerned with either relationships or content. This is going to show up as apathy, postponing problems, or lack of care about whether goals are attained. Next is the collaborating style. People using this style make a point to use problem solving and negotiating to not only maintain relationships, but obtain the goals they've set. The competing style is one that probably gets referenced most in scenarios in competitive business environments. People using this style are more concerned with content goal achievement rather than relationship goals. A colleague you work with would be more concerned getting their ideas accepted and having that reflect positively on them. They are looking for the recognition more so than working together and sharing credit. Lastly, the compromising style. This style is based on accepting concessions and conciliation.
How to set goals in the workplace. First, one must prioritize tasks. Know your objective. Create a plan to complete the task. Ask for feedback if you need help. Instill.
Situational knowledge, according to strategic communication in business and the professions, is the information of facts used in devising an effective communication strategy. Before engaging in the conflict, take note of the factors surrounding the situation. For instance, what is this physical environment like? Are there a lot of people around, or is this a one on one discussion? Aggressive tactics may be a bad choice when dealing with conflict in public. Also, consider with whom you are having a conflict with. Is it a subordinate or a boss? Consider time constraints when picking a tactic. When dealing with time constraints, you may need to pick important battles to contend with and avoid less important issues.
Communicating completely is important in the workplace. To communicate completely, one must be a good listener. Take time to practice active listening. By practicing active listening, one can better understand what the person is trying to say and then respond according to. Next, always speak with clarity. Don't talk too much or too little. Say what you want clearly and directly. Be friendly. Enter conversations with respect and friendly tones. It encourages others to be open and honest when you speak friendly and not rudely. Also, picking the right medium. Know what form of communication to use and know who you are speaking to. Managing anxiety in the workplace is very important. According to studies published by the Anxiety and Depression Association, underlying anxiety in the workplace is caused from a few different things. Deadlines. 55% of anxiety in the workplace is caused by work deadlines. 53% of anxiety in the workplace is caused by interpersonal relationships. 50% of anxiety in the workplace is caused by bad staff management. And lastly, 49% of anxiety in the workplace is from dealing with issues and problems that arise. According to studies, there are a few different things that you can do to cope with your anxiety. Some people take over-the-counter or prescription medication. That accounts for 52%. On the other hand, some people said sleeping more, said that helped them to manage anxiety. Eating more. 39% said that eating more helped manage their anxiety. 38% said that talking to family or friends helped them. And lastly, 37% said talking to a medical or mental health professional lowered their anxiety in the workplace.
We have discussed that conflicting goals lead to conflicts, and by managing goals, you can mitigate the conflict. Also, use situational knowledge to identify the style and tactics for dealing with the conflict. Another important factor in mitigating conflict is to communicate effectively and thoroughly. Finally, we discussed causes, impacts, and coping mechanisms of anxiety. By using the information contained within this presentation, you can turn a bad conflict into a good learning experience.
Now, let's take a look at the conflict scenario handout. Now that we know the strategies and tactics within conflicts, let's put that knowledge to the test. Please look at the conflict grid handout. Take a moment to read over the scenario. If you need to pause the video, you may do so now. So now that you have read over the scenario, what was your reaction? Remember your position with the organization. You're an intern at the nonprofit. Allowing a conflict with a department head to fester can reflect poorly on you. As well, your content goal is highly reliant on working with department heads to get the information you need. There is no wrong answer here. Here is how I would approach the situation. I would leave the area right after having the door closed on me. There is no need to try and argue or speak to the department head at this moment. However, I wouldn't allow the issue to fester past the day. I would write an email stating the following. Hi, Amy. I wanted to follow up with you. All I need to complete your department's dashboard is the number of consulting jobs completed and the billable hours. Let me know when we can get together to talk about this, or if your intern Kelly would know the information. My reaction falls between accommodating and collaborating. Where does your reaction fall on the grid? I am willing to accommodate the department head's schedule while also extending myself to follow up with another person if needed. I'm impressing a high need to keep the relationship with a moderate need to obtain content goals. Thank you.